Welcome to our second day of our winter rep meetings. We have the opportunity to hear Karen Swoboda, who is our Director of Teacher Education Programs here at the university. She will be speaking with us about the MAT program and the MED program. As you all know, when you're out in the world of recruiting and you're in classrooms, it's not only traditional high school students that you are speaking with. Perhaps it's a teacher, perhaps it's a parent of a student. And Karen, for your sake, these folks are from not just New England. We have New York, we have Michigan, we have Pennsylvania, we have Delaware, we have New Jersey, we have New York, we have Illinois. Thank you, Brittany. I would have forgotten. And the rest of them. Did I forget any New England state? So along the idea of when our reps are in the classroom, but also out in general, the opportunity to talk about our other programs is there. Much like you are now doing more with the transfer market, with the military market, we are looking over the next 5 years of the plan and beyond, 2017, the Centennial Plan, to grow the graduate programs. So without any further dialogue, I'll turn it over to Karen Swoboda.
So good morning, everybody. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a longtime teacher in the public education system in Rhode Island. I originally came from Connecticut to URI as a student, was a journalism major, and decided on a whim to double major in secondary ed and history, and ended up getting my first job teaching in Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I was there 25 years before I became an administrator, both in Barrington and in Chariho, which is a kind of rural district in the southern part of Rhode Island. I retired 3 years ago, just about 3 years ago, right this time of the year, and came here as Director of Teacher Ed. So I have strong connections to the K-12 world. So I know where a lot of you spend a lot of your time. And I appreciate the work that you do to get our undergrads here. And I'm here today to challenge you to kind of extend your work a little bit and let people know what I think is one of the best kept secrets of Johnson & Wales University, and that's our graduate programs in education. So, as a teacher, I know I've done a lot of PD, and the first thing I need to do is to feed you. So the best I can do, and I know it's early, I'm famous for my York peppermint patties, always on my desk. So please take one. You don't have to eat it now, but later you'll remember the nice lady who gave you the candy. So, and hopefully you'll remember our grad education programs as well. So I want to tell you one other thing about myself, and that is that I am in my first year of our doctoral program in educational leadership. So if you have any questions later about the doc program, I can speak to them, you know, a bit on the administrative side, but definitely on the student side. And those of you who are in the New England area, New York, New Jersey, we have a really viable doctoral program in educational leadership. It works for a lot of working administrators because of the fact that it's a weekend program. It's Friday evenings and all day Saturday, and it's designed for the working professional. So I can also answer some questions about that later if you want to. That's not the focus of my presentation. Today I'm going to, for the very, very first time, be using a Prezi. How many of you have ever used or seen Prezis? Anybody? Good, the young people, always. Are you Illinois? Are you also Illinois?
Yes.
See, right on the cutting edge of things. I mean, my daughter lives in Chicago. I love Main City. Anyway, so I'm going to be using a Prezi, so everyone say a silent prayer, whatever type you want to, that this technology is going to work because it's web-based. And those of you who were here a little while ago know that if the door opens and shuts, the board sometimes goes off. So we're going to do this prayer. All right, so obviously you know where you are. We're at Johnson & Wales University, and welcome, by the way, to the Alan Sean Feinstein Graduate School. The classroom that we're in was built about a year ago. There are 4 classrooms in this area that are like this, and then we have 4 seminar rooms. That's a big deal for us because up until this point we've been really just sharing regular university classrooms. The seminar room is critically important for our doctoral program to have, you know, comfortable seats for those long Friday evenings and Saturdays. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we have some facilities now that are the graduate schools, but we also know how to play nice in the sandbox. So during the day, when grad classes aren't running, especially during the morning hours, these classrooms are sometimes used by smaller undergraduate classes as well. So I'm here, as I said, to talk to you about teacher education. That's me when I started. But not really. We have 2 major programs that we offer here at at the graduate school. You know, I have to stop for a second. We've been suffering for a while with a bit of an identity crisis. And although the university has never bought into this, I think this is an awesome slogan and we sort of use it among ourselves. Johnson & Wales, see what else is cooking. You know, it's not just about the culinary and the hospitality and those wonderful programs, but we do teacher education as well. So feel free to use that. So, the first of the two programs that I want to talk to you about is for existing teachers, okay? And that's the Master of Education in Teaching and Learning. The potential candidates for this program have to have current employment with a classroom. Now that does not mean they have to be in K-12 education, okay? We'll talk a little bit more about this. Big whoops. Okay, momentary pause. Where am I? See, darn Prezi, let's try that again. There we go. It's designed for teachers currently working in a classroom, but it can be K-12 schools, it can be higher education, it can be even a less conventional classroom setting in the broader community. So someone whose job is focused on teaching and learning. So it could be someone who works in county extension and they're teaching adult classes. It could be a preschool teacher. As long as they have a classroom that they can apply their learning directly to, this program fits them. Okay? So you don't need to make that decision out there as you're talking to people. You just need to put them in touch with us and let us talk to them about the classroom setting that they're in. This year in the program we have a young man from the Coast Guard Academy, for example. And the primary focus of his job is diversity on campus. But he teaches courses for incoming freshmen. I forget what they call them there. They're not plebes. But incoming freshmen. No, it's a funny word, but I can't remember what it is. And he also teaches, believe it or not, older staff and kind of more traditional military people who've come up through the ranks but haven't necessarily gotten a lot of higher education, and he teaches some coursework for them. So not a conventional classroom setting that you would think of, but we could certainly mold the program to his needs. And that's one of the things we're really proud of in this program. It's highly personalized to each individual setting. So someone can come in as a preschool teacher, be in a group with our friend from the Coast Guard Academy, a couple of people who teach in K-12, and the broad topics that we cover in each course really are applied to each of their settings, and they're challenged to go out and make changes kind of on the go to what they do every day. So we're really proud of the personalization piece. And again, the great thing about this degree is currently anyway, it's a 2-year degree. It's a cohort program, so they start in the fall together. They become real professional learning colleagues, learning about each other's classroom settings, about each other's issues, and then they work together and move through the program together. And they're challenged, as I said, to really connect to the real work of teaching. So much so that their university-based classroom time is reduced because of the expectations of the application in the classroom. So I teach the first course in this, and I went out to each site and made a classroom visit. So I got to go to the Coast Guard Academy and check out what it's like to be a first-year student and sit through the classes that he did and talk to some people that he works with and really get an idea of the setting. At the same time, he came back and presented to his classmates about his setting. I don't think he did a Prezi, I think he did a PowerPoint, but he really let them know about the way he works so that they can talk to each other. So this is, to me, a real selling point for this program. And then finally, the focus is always on teaching with the goal of improving learning. So it's not, I taught it, so they should know it. It's, I taught it, did they learn it? And if not, what else can I do? So it's really on the cutting edge of educational improvement in terms of focusing on the student learning rather than on the performance of the teacher. So that's our goal with that program. So, for your purposes, oops, I swear I missed another. Oh no, maybe I didn't, never mind, sorry. I'm forgetting my slides. So anybody have any questions right now about the MED in teaching and learning?
I work in the Massachusetts area, so I always have a lot of teachers that have to get their
Yes.
They have to get their masters. Is it transferable to other states?
It's not a certification program, so there's no need to transfer anything. We have had candidates in the program from Massachusetts, and it is as far as I know, a recognized master's program by the state. So they will see that as meeting the requirements
Okay.
for teaching certification. We're going to talk in a moment about the MAT. That is a certification program, and so that question is a little bit more germane to this one. Yes?
And you might have said this, I might have missed it. What is the time commitment on campus?
It's a 2-year program. Right now, as we're in trimesters, we're going to be moving by 2014 into a semester base, so this program may tweak a little bit. But it's a 2-year program right now, and it's 1 evening a week, 4-hour evening a week on campus. It should really be 2 4-hour evenings.
So it's really designed for people in this, within like an hour or two drive.
Although we do pull from, as I said, we've pulled from Connecticut, we've pulled from Massachusetts, and you know, if you seem to think people would be interested in something like this and you can give feedback to Bill, we are looking at least making this a hybrid situation within the next year or two, possibly to coincide with that 2014 move to semesters. So in that case, it might become a residency thing where they come to campus 1 Saturday a month or something like that. We're not looking at completely online because we think the personal piece is really critically important to the program. But we are thinking about at least regionally taking it as a hybrid program.
What was that again? It was 1 evening per week?
1 evening per week, 4 hours on campus. So generally it runs 5 to 9 p.m., 1 evening a week. And then the other 4 hours is really application in the classroom in one way or another. And that's obviously assessed by the professors. So it's legit. So teachers, working professionals really like this program because it is evening-based. It is a relatively low commitment of time to have to be on campus, and they can use what they learn pretty much almost the next day in many cases. Okay? Any other questions on that one?
I think for me, just being in Connecticut, and you know, a few people have heard about it, the disconnect that I see, I'm so happy that we have this, but is the fact that we don't have undergrad majors in education. So people don't associate us with this type of master's degree program
Right.
for higher education. And I think that's the disconnect, and I think that's where, you know, for myself, the marketing is important. But is there any, do you know of more marketing? Are you trying to do a big marketing campaign to get this best kept secret out? Because it is a best kept secret, I agree with you.
Right. Well, I can probably defer to Bill on this because he knows I've been a major cheerleader for more marketing and marketing focused on getting this word out. So maybe you can.
So we've recently brought Pat Van Warmer into the fold,
Okay.
probably about 9 months ago, 9 to 12 months ago, with that in mind, more marketing. As you all know, we spend a great deal of our marketing dollars
Yeah, an undergrad.
in this room
Yeah.
with salaries and benefits, et cetera, and that's why it's so important for you to know what these programs are about as well. But
Yeah.
we are doing a more specific, aggressive marketing campaign with the limited budget dollars that we've been given
Yeah, I mean, with
to
this
do it.
facility being what it is now and everything, I think, you know, you're right, it's just,
The other thing still, if there was a way, if marketing could give to, especially the local reps in the area that when we do meet with teachers, if you could give us like a one-page something, you know,
Yeah,
for the grad
to
school, so we could take it,
Yeah.
because I have a bunch of guidance purposes coming up, and I referred, I think, a student to Katie, actually.
One-page cheat
Teaching
sheet.
Katie.
Yeah, we've asked for that.
Because it gives the university more credibility
Right.
to be able to have these types of programs and share with our undergraduates.
Right, then you could actually give the teacher, you know, especially if they're looking for a master's degree program that they need to have complete.
Bill, I do want you to know that I don't know these women and I did not pay them to say those things, but I've been saying the same things for a while. Yeah.
I did just want to say to answer that question so we can move on with your presentation. There is a one-page fact sheet that you will get. And there is going to be a webinar coming up, I believe, the end of this month. So you'll be hearing more about that and you'll be getting the materials.
Great, thank you.
Kind of to piggyback on that question, is there any talk or discussion about an undergrad in education?
That's a good question. Basically, no. And the reason is that Rhode Island's a relatively small state, as you know. And an undergrad education program has to go through program certification and approval by the Rhode Island Department of Ed, which is a pretty cumbersome process. And in Rhode Island, I meet with all of the other institutes of higher education that have teacher ed programs. And we really are a very collaborative group. And honestly, there's no need for yet another undergrad education program. I mean, the market is saturated as it is with Rhode Island College and URI, and then PC, Salve Regina, Brown. I mean, there's just a lot going on. So, no, because the university really doesn't want to have to go through that very cumbersome and expensive process. And honestly, there's if you want to become a teacher as an undergrad, there's very close, much less expensive alternatives. So the market, I don't think, is really there. One of the things that we are going to do, and I'm actually meeting on Thursday with Angela, who I think is going to be presenting after me, the Dean of Arts and Sciences. What we're going to try to do is market a pathway through undergrad arts and sciences, like courses that we would recommend that would place someone in a good place to come in and immediately do an MAT after undergrad. So that may work for folks who are looking at some of the new arts and sciences majors. It also will work for our culinary students who, and in a moment I'll talk about the food service MAT piece. We really need our students coming into grad school to be prepared academically, as well as in terms of the skill set that they have and the talents that they have in the culinary world. So we're going to try to create this pathway and create some buzz around coming directly into our program that way. I think it's a better alternative than trying to do an undergrad education in a saturated market. So let me segue into the Master of Arts in Teaching, the MAT program. And that has two kind of wings. And eventually this may change a little bit as we pull this wing out into a separate program in the next couple of years. Again, that 2014 timeframe is what we're looking at to make a substantive change here. The MAT program as a whole is regulated by the Rhode Island Department of Education because it is an approved program by the state for teacher certification. Right now on campus we have two pieces of that. We have the part where people are looking for RIDE certification. RIDE is Rhode Island Department of Ed. And then we have the non-certification food service education program. So I'm going to talk about those two, and then I'll talk about the wisdom we think of pulling this wing kind of out of the MAT eventually. So let's see. All right, so the Rhode Island Department of Ed RIDE approved certification program. We go through a process once every 3 to 5 years where the department comes here and spends about a week going through every single nook and cranny of our program to be sure that we're meeting the standards for teacher preparation. They hold us to very high standards. We are currently in the last year of approval. We anticipate a visit by RIDE in the next year. So this is a pretty expensive and complicated thing for the university to support. We have now been reduced to 3 concentrations because Rhode Island is a race to the top state for any of you who are at all attuned to the educational world. And part of the race to the top, they've revamped certification and changed rules that eliminated our ability to offer a secondary special ed certification with our elementary. Too complicated for you. Just suffice to say, we offer elementary education and elementary special ed. So it's a dual cert program. Graduates come out and are qualified to be certified in 2 areas. We offer business education with that secondary special education. What RIDE did is say you have to have a high school certification in content, that's business in this case, in order to build secondary special ed. So they used to allow elementary to be your content, they no longer do that. And then finally we have certified food service education. We are, as far as I know, the only university, the only higher education to offer food service education in the United States, and I would almost guarantee in the world. That is our niche, okay? Nobody else does it. Food service educators in high schools around the country are primarily those people who've been out in the working world, in the culinary world, and then they come in, they get tired of standing on their feet and dealing with those long hours, and they come in and decide they want to teach in a high school program. In Rhode Island, if you go through that door, you don't even have to have a bachelor's degree. You simply go through the Department of Ed, tell them that's what you want to do. They look at your resume, they grant you a 1-year certification, temporary certification, tell you to take certain coursework to get started on your bachelor's. That's a 1950s model of education. It's really not what is best for kids. Because we know that oftentimes kids in food service classes in high schools learn very differently. They need to be supported. So you need someone who's really, we believe, a trained teacher to best move them forward, not only in the content, but in pedagogy, how to learn, how to really deal with all of that stuff. So we're really proud of our food service education. We see this as a great area of growth for us. And that, again, is a place where we can really bring our own folks on campus through into graduate school kind of in one fell swoop. Often not because they don't want to work in the field, but this arms them sort of for that time in the future where they decide they'd really like to teach rather than to work, out in a restaurant or hotel or whatever. I'll talk in a few minutes about the non-certified part of that because there's another whole group of people who want to teach in the culinary world, but they don't want to teach in a high school. Okay, so these folks we're talking about are certified to teach in a high school. Okay, so from your perspective, who's the target audience for this? The program, when it was developed, was really developed with career changers in mind. So if you happen in the broader world to just know people who are looking for another alternative, coming into a program like this is very user-friendly for people who are currently working full-time. It's, again, a cohort program, which means they start together as a group in the fall. The coursework is laid out in such a way, it is year-round, but it's laid out in such a way that they're never closed out of a class. They never really have electives. They go through the entire program without a problem. And that's huge for people who've tried to cobble together a teaching degree say at a university or something where classes don't run if there's not enough students. They ended up thinking that something's going to take them 2 or 3 years and it ends up taking them 6 because the courses aren't offered at night or whatever the case might be. So most of our folks work through the program in the first year and a couple of months. So it starts in the fall, we go fall, winter, spring, summer, fall. And it's after that fall that they begin to student teach. So they actually are, we have a cohort now in the school student teaching. They started right after Thanksgiving. And they'll finish, depending upon whether they're a single cert in food service or whether they're a dual cert, they'll finish at various points in the spring. So it's about an 18 to 20 month program, start to finish, and that's a huge selling point for career changers especially. As we mentioned, Johnson & Wales or other business or culinary graduates who would like to become certified to teach in a high school. So, if you know people who've been out in the business world, and they say, gee, I'm just tired of the grind there, I'd really like to do something else, and always thought I'd make a good teacher. Those are the kinds of people that you might want to talk to regarding our business program or our culinary program, if they have those areas of expertise. We do a transcript analysis of what their undergrad looks like. Sometimes we have to require them to take some additional coursework, but that's, again, not your problem, that's our problem to figure out the best pathway into the program. But we do, because of RIDE, and because we should, we have high standards in terms of what undergraduate coursework they have to have in order to qualify here. And all their undergraduate coursework in those areas that are identified have to be B or better. So that's where occasionally we have career changers taking a few classes, because they're very different people when they were 18 or 20 than they are today in their 40s. And they're oftentimes they come to us and they're like embarrassed about their undergrad transcript, and we're like, no, we get it. We're all teachers, we get it. You change, so it's fine. And then finally, you guys being out in schools a lot, current people who are around the schools but not certified to teach. So teaching assistants, for example, or substitute teachers who might have, in Rhode Island anyway, and I think in a lot of states, you can substitute with a bachelor's degree. You don't have to have a degree in education to be a sub day to day. So you've got a lot of subs in schools that are starting to kind of get their feet wet in the classroom and they kind of like it, and now they're interested in certification. So just to be available to those folks to give them the information about a program would be helpful. So they have to have a bachelor's degree, but even if they're close to finishing a bachelor's degree, we're happy to talk to them and kind of look at what they've got and figure out what their needs are. And try to. We've had people we've sent away with a laundry list of things they need to do, and a year later they come back having done them all because they're really passionate about wanting to teach. So it's kind of cool. Any questions on the target audience at all? And you may come up with other people as well. Okay, so let's go to the non-certified part of the equation. And in non-certified, it's only food service, and it's designed for those people who don't plan to teach at the high school level. Okay, so they really don't want a student teach out there in the high school. It sort of sometimes scares them to think about having to be in high school. but they're very interested in maybe teaching culinary in a junior college, a culinary program at Johnson & Wales, someplace out in the community. The other thing that we're beginning to develop is the idea of people who want to go into corporate training. So they need the pedagogy, they need to understand how to teach and how to teach adults specifically. So again, with an eye towards 2014, I talked about pulling this particular arm of the MAT degree out into a new MED. That's our working plan right now. So that we can develop a few tracks for people and really focus in a little bit more on that corporate piece, the training piece, as well as classroom kinds of situations, all right? But for right now, these would be folks who you might know were, are culinary students. They might be the people who are teaching even in high school culinary programs, who don't have an advanced degree, who might want one, and who might see the need at this stage of their career for more tools in their toolbox in terms of how to reach their students. So this MAT could work for them. Again, it runs a cohort program. Some of the courses align with the certified, so they take, for example, the first term is with those folks. So they're one big cohort, and then the culinary folks begin to split off. However, the cert and non-cert culinary folks currently stay together as their own mini cohort. So we have a larger cohort of everybody, and then we have a smaller cohort of elementary and business folks, and a smaller cohort of the culinary folks. Okay? At the end of the game, instead of student teaching out in the high schools, they can opt to student teach here on campus. So they'll be assigned to one of our chefs. They will teach everything that that chef teaches for a trimester. So they basically will take over those duties as they would in a student teaching setting that you're probably more familiar with in K-12. Or they can do a related capstone project. And we're lucky enough to have Dean McVetti of culinary, who works with our capstone students in designing projects. We just last year had a graduate who did her capstone on her undergrad alma mater, one of the SUNY schools in New York. She went there and revamped their curriculum, and before the end of her capstone, she was hired. So she's now a professor at that SUNY University. So, we're pretty pleased with the flexibility of the program, and we found that, our graduates are pretty pleased as well. So that's the non-cert piece. So the target audience here would be a lot of our own graduates, quite obviously. We get a lot of our culinary nutrition people now being interested because they realize that with culinary nutrition, the teaching piece is really important, even if they don't envision themselves out in the high schools. Graduates from other culinary programs around the country, so if you know of people out there in Illinois that are in culinary school and you can just spread the word that this is a possibility, that would be awesome. And also our alums who've been working in industry but are looking for a change, just tired of the grind and want to try to teach towards the end of their career, middle or end of their career. Questions on this one? Yeah.
I often get a question about who teaches our classes, undergrad, more business and hospitality, if it's teaching assistants or full-time professors. So because the TAs are helping to teach the culinary courses now, is it fair to say, like, TAs are in culinary?
So our student teachers are now considered TAs, if that's what you mean when they student teach. The professor is there full-time with them, the chef is there full-time with them. So it's more of an internship sort of thing, and they're only teaching under the direction of that chef. So we're not looking at the chefs taking the term off and hitting the road and leaving our student out there alone. It's really a tight collaboration, and those are our standards. We would not allow that sort of thing to happen. So that's a difference.
And we don't allow teaching assistants or fellowships to take over classrooms in the culinary building. You'll hear more from Paul McVetti in a few minutes.
Is there reciprocal agreements with other states on the certification?
Yes, the Rhode Island Department of Ed website lists all of the many states where there are reciprocity agreements in place. My only warning on that when I talk to candidates from out of state is for them to do the legwork with their own states because of Race to the Top, certification requirements in states around the country are changing relatively rapidly. And it used to be back in the day that reciprocity was just what it said. You get certified in Rhode Island, you're automatically certified in Illinois. Now, you get certified in Rhode Island, you're through the door in Illinois, but there may be additional things you have to have. For example, someone who gets certified in Illinois comes to Rhode Island, they have to take every Praxis teacher test that Rhode Island requires at this stage of the game. That didn't used to be the case. So I always like to give that caveat of, you need to do the research with your particular state you're thinking about and make sure that the pathway is smooth. For the most part, it's smooth. It's just a couple of additional requirements that are going back and forth now. I mean, we're kind of going test crazy in this country, trying to, think that, it's kind of like the GREs or the SATs or anything else. It's one measure on one day of one individual, and yet now we're making it high stakes for people going from even state to state. So you could have taught 20 years in Illinois, and if you decide to move to Rhode Island to teach, you still have to take those tests. It's kind of insane. So, any other questions on this program? Okay, I want to show you, bear with me, a video that we did a year in the summer about the MAT program. So let's take a listen. I'm Karen Swoboda, Director of Teacher Education in the Alan Sean Feinstein Graduate School of Johnson & Wales University. The Master of Arts in Teaching program at Johnson & Wales has been graduating successful teachers for Rhode Island's classrooms for nearly 10 years. As graduates of a Rhode Island Department of Education approved teacher preparation program, MAT candidates are eligible for certification in Rhode Island and in many reciprocating states. There are dual concentrations in elementary education, elementary special education, and also in business education, secondary special education. In addition, Johnson & Wales offers the only food service MAT degree in the country. Food service candidates pursue a track which leads to certification in public high school teaching or a career in post-secondary culinary education. In each concentration, the Johnson & Wales MAT program offers numerous benefits. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to what our students have to say.
Evening classes held year-round on our Providence Harborside campus make it possible to complete coursework with little disruption to your daytime commitments. And you can do so within a relatively short time frame of 18 to 20 months.
I chose Johnson & Wales because I was able to work and continue to take classes. We found out that we're having our first child, and it worked that we could take classes at night and still continue to work during the day.
He was
I like
wonderful.
that kind of expedited program, 18 months. It's really direct. You know what you're getting. They pretty much outline a series of courses you got to take, and it was just really clear. And after going through the program, just to see how well they prepared us to be teachers.
You and your classmates form a collegial, supportive, educational group working and studying together during the entire program. Since you take a set sequence of courses, you can never be shut out of a class.
I moved here from Chicago in 2009 to start the program, and the best thing that Johnson & Wales offered to me was a family. Our cohort was a family from the beginning all the way to the end, and this is my new home, and Johnson & Wales did that for me.
I guess overall just forming a community, because we became a community. We started out with 40-something students, and no one knew each other, and everyone was afraid to talk, and probably by the spring trimester, we were all best friends, and we knew what was going on in each other's lives, and it was a pretty incredible feeling.
From the very beginning, you'll be encouraged to meet with an advisor whose job it is to ensure your success. Program staff and faculty are readily available from start to finish and even beyond graduation to offer support and encouragement.
And I depended a lot on my teachers and my advisors and the students in my program with me. Without them, I couldn't have done it, and I couldn't have gotten through all the work.
Once I started here and saw the people, saw the type of people that I could work with, I just fell in love with the place. I fell in love with Providence. I fell in love with the Johnson & Wales standard of being the best at what they could do, and therefore they produced a person who could put out their best at all times.
I enjoyed interacting with my advisor. I enjoyed interacting with all of the faculty because they were really always there for you. I could pick up the phone and call my advisor. I could pick up the phone and call anybody, and I knew I would get a call back. I knew I would get an email back. I knew I could ask any question. I knew I could really come in for any form of support that I needed, and it would be there for me. You have an assigned advisor, but really the entire faculty here becomes your advisor, so that was really nice.
Our faculty members have developed their expertise as teachers, administrators, and chefs.
Their knowledge is current and steeped in best practices learned and used every day throughout their careers.
I think like the most important thing is the fact that like we're surrounded by other professionals that really were inspired to be educators, and we're all still very close. And you learn, like you hear the stories and you can talk about it, and then you go out into the classroom and those things really do happen to you. Or like you can even think back of like, wow, one of my instructors told me this was going to happen, and then you live it, and it does.
From the very first class, time spent in the college classroom is complemented by time spent in the learning environment appropriate to the concentration. From elementary and high school classrooms in the public schools to the culinary labs and classrooms on the Johnson & Wales campus.
One of the major experiences that I have to thank Johnson & Wales for was being in a faculty meeting with all of the department heads in my first year of teaching, and just being able to use all the updated RTI terms and things to do with remediation for kids, and knowing all the updated information and being able to offer that as a first year teacher and looking very educated.
I've had an incredible student teaching experience. The placement I had in my elementary school was incredible. I learned so many new ways of managing behaviors.
My student teaching experience has been great. I've been really fortunate to have some really excellent teachers that I've worked with. The most rewarding moment in my student teaching, I think, has been seeing my students' growth. I've had the opportunity to take some kids who were really struggling and who had grades that I just knew were below what their ability level was, and because I was a student teacher, I got more opportunities to work with them one-on-one, and I saw them get, hundreds on their quizzes and exams, and it was really, really special.
I went through a public high school, and in my high school, the program for culinary arts wasn't really the greatest, whereas my brother was put through a vocational school, and he got all of the techniques in education and culinary arts he could get. I thought that was unfair. And so what I would like to do is go back to high schools and teach the Johnson & Wales type culinary information to public high school kids.
We hope our students' comments have provided an overview of a program which sounds just right for you. If so, please contact us so that we may provide additional information and answer any questions you may have. It could be your first step toward a rewarding and successful teaching career.
So Jamie just left graduate admissions, and Katie over here took her place, so we need to fix that last screen. We had the idea of doing that video partly to just try to get the word out, and we're obviously not professional videographers, as some in this room might be, but it was our best, stab at trying to do a video that would really tell the story from the students' perspectives. And all those folks, the first young lady who spoke actually taught when she was in junior high in Narragansett. So it's really exciting for me to see her blossom as a teacher now. She's out doing her student teaching currently. So really, those snippets were taken at a celebration dinner, and a few other occasions around when we just sat somebody in front of a camera and said, "What do you think about the program?" So we're pretty proud of their words telling the story of our program. So, any questions at all now? Hopefully, I haven't bored you to tears this early in the morning. Thanks. I just want